Today we're going to be making a modification to my original cat pattern. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it down below. You may not know that this gray cat loves to dress up, and today he's going to dress up as Captain America. So let's get right into the supplies that we're going to need. I'm going to be using Big Twist Cuddle in medium gray for the main body. Now, this yarn is starting to get clearanced out at Joann's, so you may not be able to find this exact one, but that's okay. You can also use any cat color that you would like, but you can also use a Bernat blanket. Next up, I've got the white that we're going to use for stripes, the red we're going to use for stripes, and a pink that we're going to use for the nose and the ears details. These are all Bernat colors. And I'm using this dark blue that is on the end of a Bernat Ogo skein. These different yarns do work well together. The most important thing you need to remember is to use the same weight of yarn every time. If you'd like to make this cat in a weight 4 yarn, that's great. Weight 5, totally fine. Just make sure that all your different colors, no matter what brand they are roughly the same thickness, or else you're going to have a misshapen cat. The rest of the supplies we're going to need are scissors, a crochet hook. I'm using a J 6mm clover crochet hook, but you need to use the hook that is the most appropriate for the size of yarn that you're using, a tapestry needle, a stitch marker, and whatever size safety eyes you prefer if you want to use safety eyes. Now these, I always say in my videos, these are not safe for kids who are still putting things in their mouths. So if you're making this for a younger child, use a worsted weight yarn in whatever color you'd like for your eyes, make a magic circle and single crochet 6, 7, 8 single crochets depending on how big you want your eyes to be, and just use that circle, finish it off, and embroider those. I do plan on putting more videos on my channel on how I make those eyes. Hey guys, my name is Krista and welcome to Crafts. I have another video where I show you how to make the basic gray cat, and I go through how to make a magic ring, how to make any special stitches and things like that. So if you're new to crocheting and you need those walkthroughs, go back and watch this video first. In the video I'm doing today, I'm going to go through the pattern, but I'm going to skip over some of those special stitch tutorials, because if you are here to make a Captain America, you probably know some of those basics already. So for round 1, we're going to single crochet 6 into a magic ring. For round 2, we're going to increase in every stitch for a total of 12 stitches. If you're someone who likes to use a stitch marker, go ahead and insert that however you like to use it. I usually keep mine in the final stitch from the previous round. So we're going to increase in every stitch, and we will have 12 single crochets when we get to the end of the round. For round 3, we're going to increase and then single crochet 1, and we're going to have a total of 18 stitches at the end, so I'm going to finish that and I will meet you back here. Okay, so I finished round 3 and I had to make a change in my lighting. So if it looks different, that's all that is. But it's not going to affect our cat, and that's all that matters. Now for round 4, we are going to increase and then do 2 single crochets. And we're going to repeat that 6 times for a total of 24 stitches. So go ahead and finish that, and I'll meet you back here for the next round. Now for round 5, we are going to start by single crocheting 17. When you're done single crocheting 17, we're going to double crochet 1, triple crochet 1, double crochet 1, all in the next stitch. And we're going through both loops on that. And then we're going to single crochet 4. Then we're going to repeat that same thing, 1 double, 1 triple, 1 double, all in the same stitch, and that's making our ears. For the last stitch in that round, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the back loops only, and we're going to switch to red at the end of that stitch. Now I'm going to keep my gray attached. I'm not going to cut this off because we will eventually need it for the tail, and I would rather work around it and then continue with it than have to keep cutting it off, but that's really up to you. And I'm going to do the same thing every time we do these color changes. I'm just going to keep working with it until we're entirely finished with one color, or with the color that we're trying to get rid of. So for round 6, we're going to single crochet in the back loops only 17 times. When you finish those 17 single crochets, you're going to end up behind the ear, and I'm going to go behind it and find the bottom of that treble stitch. And I don't want to go so far that this red yarn shows through on the front. So I'm just trying to find one loop of it. We're going to do 1 single crochet in that. And then we're going to find those 4 stitches that are between the ears and do 4 single crochets in the back loops only there. Same thing again on the next ear. We're going to find that 1 loop down at the bottom, and to be honest, you don't need to be very particular about what exact loop that is. Just get near the center and near the bottom so that your stitch lines up in the middle and your ear sticks up off the top. And then for the last stitch in that round, we're going to go back to a regular single crochet. We're going to stop working in the back loops. Working in the back loops like that just pops its face out a little bit, and we're done doing that. Now for round 7, we're going to single crochet 5 and then work on the feet, and this is also where we need to have that gray yarn attached still. So we're going to do our 5 single crochets. When I get to that 5th one though, I'm going to change back to my gray yarn. And then we're going to work a bobble stitch for the first foot. Now at the end of that bobble, we're going to switch to the white yarn and we're going to do our color changes under the feet so that we don't see a lot of those in his Captain America sweater. So we're at the end of that bobble stitch and we're going to pull white through. Gonna crochet over the tail of my white and that gray because I want the gray to come out again where we have the next foot. And we're going to single crochet 3. And when we get to this 3rd single crochet, we're going to drop the white, pick up that gray, work our bobble stitch, and on that last loop we're going to pull through with white and we're going to single crochet 14 to finish the round. I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch marker back in. For round 8 we're going to do 6 more single crochets in white and then we're going to switch to our blue at the end of that 6th crochet. And we're going to switch to blue. And this is where I would say we start to get into an intermediate pattern because I'm not cutting any of these tails. We just need to be paying attention that we're crocheting over the correct things, and anything we're not working with, pull that down and out of your way because we will get back to it. Once you have your blue attached, we're going to do 18 single crochets to finish out the round. For round 9, we're going to do 6 more blue single crochets, and on that last one, switch to white. Now we only have 1 stripe of blue in this pattern, so I'm going to single crochet a few times over this blue with the white, and then we'll be able to cut the blue actually and have 1 less tail that we're working with. So single crochet over that enough times that you think it is secure and not going to come loose, and then still cut a long tail for it. Okay, now I'm going to stop and deal with that tail so we've got 1 less thing to mess with. I'm not cutting a very long tail, but I am cutting just long enough that we're going to be able to tie these 2 together, and I won't have to weave any of these ends in, and we're going to do this with the other colors at the end. So when you switch from blue to white, you need to have 18 more single crochets total to get to the end of the round. Moving on to round 10, we're going to do 6 single crochets and then a bobble stitch to work that next foot. But what is more important is making sure that your feet are lined up. So if your tension has changed at all, then you may need to change how many stitches you have here. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think we're going to line up perfectly, but we're going to switch to our gray now. You're going to make sure that you're grabbing the correct gray. You're not grabbing the tail from the magic circle at the beginning. And we're going to pull up that gray, still attached inside the cat. And we're going to make our bobble stitch. You can untangle this at any point in time. We're really twisting things up here. Now this is the last of the white. We're not going to be using that anymore. So I'm going to be crocheting over it for a few stitches before we tie that off, just like we did with the blue. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when we come to the end of our bobble, I'm going to put that gray down and completely ignore it for a little bit. We're picking up our red now. So I'm single crocheting over the white with the red through the gray. And we're going to do 3 single crochets. We get to that third one, we need to pick up our gray again and do that last foot again, checking to see if they're in line with each other, more so than we care about how many stitches are between the feet. We just need to make sure that we have 24 stitches at the end of the round. Get to the end of that bobble and switch back to the red. And then we'll be doing 13 single crochets to finish the round. I am only going to do 1, 2, 3 more though, and then I'm going to cut that white and get that out of my way. So you can see we've got a lot happening here. This is why I do not recommend this for a complete beginner. This is a lot of color changes, or if you just need to practice something that has a lot of color changes, you could do this. I'm going to tie these and secure them with knots. You can also do a color change where you completely stop with that color and start with the next. That is always an option. So now we're just down to 2 colors, so things are much simpler. And after our bobble, we needed to do 13. I've got 3, so I'm going to do 10 more, and I'll meet you back here when I finish this round. For round 11, we're going to do 7 more single crochets in this red. And when we get to the end of that last step, that 7th stitch, we're going to switch to gray. And we're going to do 17 more single crochets to get back around to our stitch marker. And with the red yarn, we're going to do just like we did with the other colors. I'm going to cut a tail and tie this off. If you've been enjoying this video, please consider liking and subscribing. That really does help me be able to make more of these cat and costume videos, and I have quite a lot of ideas for these. Now, before we move on, I like to pull out the working yarn so we don't mess that up, and I like to make the faces now while I can sew in and out from the inside. I don't like to embroider things on after they're closed up because then I have to try and figure out how to hide those tails. I like to be able to tie them from the inside and let them be. So first things first, let's get some eyes on here. For an intermediate video like this, I'm assuming that you've probably worked with some safety eyes before, but here's what they look like in case you haven't. And these backs are going to slide over them from the inside. I put my eyes between rounds 2 and 3, about 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches apart. Again, I care more about them looking nice and even than I care about the number in between. And they're kind of in from the center of the ears. So we're going to add those backs. In case you haven't seen this, they just slide down over that, over these ridges. And we're starting to look like something. I've cut a strand from this pink yarn to sew on our nose and ear details, and this is a pink that I got from a Bernat Ogo skein, but you could use whatever color you'd like, especially if you're trying to make this look like a cat that you have. Then you're going to want to change up the body colors. Now I'm moving all of those tails, straightening them out so that we can get where we want to go and we're not running into them the entire time. So I'm going to embroider on the nose and ears, and I will meet you back here. I finished sewing on the face, and now I'm tying some knots in the back of this, and I want that first knot that I tie to be fairly loose inside of there so that I'm not pulling and distorting the face at all. And then the subsequent knots can be very tight to hold it in place. And if you'd like, you could add some whiskers here, whatever details you would like on your cat face. Next up, for round 12, we're going to invisible decrease and then single crochet 2. We're going to do that 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So we've got an invisible decrease, 2 singles. I'll meet you back here when I'm finished with that. For round 13, we're going to invisible decrease and then single crochet 1, and we're going to repeat that pattern around 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. Now it's time to add our stuffing. If you're enjoying videos like this, you should come find me over on Instagram, Crafts Go Bloom Shop, where I post a lot of smaller videos and yarn hauls and reels, and I post a lot of behind the scenes photos and patterns that I am working on, so you can kind of keep up to date on what's going on there. And I also have patterns in my Etsy shop. If you are interested in this pattern being written up as a printable pattern, leave me a comment and let me know, and I might put that in my Etsy shop as well. For round 14, we're going to do 6 invisible decrease slip stitches. And it kind of is exactly how it sounds. We're just going to do an invisible decrease, but instead of continuing on to make it a single crochet, we're just going to pull that through all 3. So we grab up those 2 front loops, yarn over, pull it through all 3 loops on the hook, and you do kind of have to twist the project to make it work if you don't want to pull it over with your fingers. And that's really helping this project to lay flat at the end instead of having a point. That's not what I want. Alright, so that's 5. I'm going to take out my stitch marker and be done with it because it's in our way now. So we're going to do the 6th invisible decrease slip stitch, and then we're going to chain 5. Also, at this point, if you need to add more stuffing, now is the time to do that. In that chain 5, we're going to skip the first chain, single crochet 2 in the next. In that 3rd chain, we're going to single crochet 2. And then in the last 2 chains, we're just going to put 1 single crochet into each. When you finish that, we're going to slip stitch back down into that same place where we started that from. And then we're going to finish off and weave in the tail. I like to chain 1 to finish off, but not everyone does, and that's okay. Pull that yarn through and get it on your tapestry needle. When I'm weaving in the ends, I like to sew through the front loops of the remaining stitches of the project. And then we're going to pull that tight. That's closed up, and then kind of get our tail where we want it. I'm going to go down into the project, come out on a different side. Now I'm not going to just cut it off. I'm going to weave in to make sure you're going into some gray loops. And I'm going to weave into some gray loops and pull this, but I'm not going to pull it super tight because I'm not trying to change the shape. If you pull really tight, you're going to completely distort the amigurumi. And I'm going to go through these loops because that is what's going to keep it more secure for any little kid hands that get a hold of it. Going to cut that end once you're done weaving it in. And guys, we have finished Cats in America. I hope you'll check out my channel. I've got a lot of other tutorials on there and free patterns. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.